in Trenton, my family at the rehab, but I know the sister had something that was very important to her and her son. And so, God had it where we got able to do everything we needed to do there. And then I told my family I might come back, but I got to go do God's work because this is what He called me to do.
Okay.
So I did the funeral, did the cemetery and all that stuff. Showed my face at the repast and spoke at the funeral and stuff. So I covered my end of what I needed to do. I want to thank you, sister, for allowing me to come down here and speak. And thank my wife for coming and just understand that I didn't think none of this was possible for me in my life. If it was up to me, I would have been out of here. You know what I'm saying? Taking myself out. I understand this brother, he saw me in my peak of what I was doing in my basketball journey, doing basketball spotlight, but most people, probably including himself, didn't know that I had a murder situation over my head at the time. You know what I'm saying? So, I was born in Trenton, New Jersey, single parent household, and growing up, I never thought that I would even think about doing drugs or alcohol. Played a little basketball, but I was a baseball star. Graduated at Trenton High with honors, and I was, like I said, I was a baseball star. But my birth stopped at St. Peter's College in Jersey City. I get up to St. Peter's, and now I'm faced adversity for the first time in my life. First time away from home. First time away from my neighborhood. Like first time culture shock. My school is 99% black. Now I'm around white people and Spanish people and this and that and this, and I don't know what to do. And the first time I struggled academically, I remember getting a 27 on the test, and I took it to the professor, and I asked the professor, was the grade real? Because I thought maybe she had some type of curve or something that she was going to grade, and she was like, yeah, it's real. All this stuff going on, I went into an early depression. And they had counselors at the college that help freshmen that go through this kind of adjustment. But I was taught in my house, what goes in this house stays in this house. So I wasn't going to talk to no counselor. So I went home that weekend. And my goal was to talk to my mom on Sunday and convince her that I ain't want to go back to college. So Sunday rolls around and I go see my mom and I'm like, Mom, I don't want to go. And she looked at me and she said, you don't got to go back. Tomorrow you're going to get a job. And if you know my mom, if I ain't get back on that train, I'll still be hearing about that to this day. So I jump on the train from Trenton to Newark, then I catch the path to Jersey City, and I get off at Journal Square. Now I'm walking down Kennedy Boulevard. I'm depressed and going through all this stuff. I see a liquor store on the left. Now I had been in liquor stores before, but I had never bought nothing before. I go in the liquor store, looking around, looking in the cabinets. I see Mad Dog 2020 Red Banana. I said, this look like it'll probably taste good. So I buy it, sneak it in my dorm, and that night I drank the whole bottle. And the alcohol did something to me that I had never felt before. I didn't have to think of none of this stuff I was going through. I felt at ease. I felt comfortable. I felt like, all right, I belong. I thought I found my new best friend. So throughout that first year at St. Peter's, anytime I felt some kind of anxiety or going through something, I go get Mr. Alcohol. I'm good. I had a friend that went to Keene College in Union. He called me, he said, yo, you should transfer to Keene. Keene is a better college than St. Peter's, and you'll have more fun there. And he was right. Keene was in the middle of, St. Peter's was in the middle of Jersey City, no campus. Keene had a campus, and St. Peter's was a commuter school. So at 3:30, everybody go home, nobody's up there, so that contributed to my depression. So the next year rolled around, I transferred to Keene, and when I got there, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Now I'm like, yeah, he was right. This is what I thought college was. Now Keene is a campus, it's girls, it's parties. I dove straight in, but I also took something else with me, and that was the alcohol. So now I'm partying hard at Keene, and at Keene we started partying on Thursday and went all the way to Sunday, just partying, drinking, partying. And I should have known I had a drinking problem at Keene because I went to my first discount liquor store, Bayway Liquors. And I walked in there, and I was too excited. So I should have known something was right. I saw all these, I had never been in a store like this before that had all these big things of liquor for cheap. And I'm walking down the aisle with my cart, like the kids on the Toys R Us commercial when they used to tell you, give you a certain amount of time to get all the toys. That's how I was in the liquor store. I'm piling all of this stuff into my thing. And then I snuck it in my dorm and I started drinking it. And I thought this was life. During that time, the rap music changed. It changed from conscious rap, then they went to gangster rap. But now this new rap came out with like Puffy and Jay-Z and Biggie and all of them. And it was more about getting money, women, clothes, cars, this and this, braggadocious rap. And me coming from a single-parent household, not having a father, I searched for some identity. And when I saw the Notorious B.I.G. video Juicy, and I saw the lifestyle that he portrayed in that video, I said, I want that lifestyle. But I knew I wasn't going to never sell drugs or anything like that. So my mindset was, I'm going to get me a business when I get out of school. I'm going to have enough money in this business so I can support this kind of lifestyle that I'm seeing on these videos. So my mindset changed. Any kind of morals, any kind of connection I had with God before I got to college vanished at that point. Because now it was about the money and the women and stuff. I had got with this clique in college called Bartlett Bangers. They was my roommates and our whole dorm. I lived in Bartlett dorm. And it wasn't bangers that had nothing to do with being in a gang. It was, we were womanizers. You had to make sure you had 8 different women each semester, and we was about partying. We was the popular guys. We did this and did that. And I dove in it, being insecure and things of that nature. But I didn't know at the time how many demons I was picking up, how many addictions I was picking up during that time in college. You know what I'm saying? So this life kept going on and on and on. And while it's going, the alcohol is steady rising. The alcoholism is steady rising. I always did my work because I knew I couldn't go home to that woman without a degree. So I made sure I did what I had to do to graduate. So I graduated. Now, I get out of college. Now, I got a job. I'm working for school-based youth service, and I'm working for a basketball company. I got 2 incomes coming in. So now I can start trying to look at this life that I saw in these videos. Now I could go out and go to all these different places and party. But I'm not in college no more, so I'm not drinking with George Skirt, natural ice, and none of that kind of stuff. I'm drinking Hennessy, Belvedere, Grey Goose, this and this. So now I'm really thinking I'm living that life. But the alcoholism is steady rising. I meet my first wife, and we from Trenton, so most people from Trenton go to college and come out. They move over to Pennsylvania. So I'm living in Pennsylvania over in Marsville. I meet her. She moved in with me, so now I got 3 incomes. So at first, me and my friends, we was just going to like Miami, Daytona Beach, all down South Party and doing all that. Now we done took it international. Now we going to Cancun, we going to Jamaica, we in Coco Bongos, we doing all this. But the alcoholism steady rising, and I'm moving farther and farther away from God. You know what I'm saying? I had a friend who was a principal at Red Bank Middle School, and he said that they give me and her jobs if we came down there and work. He said the only stipulation is I'll make sure you get tenure. All you gotta do is come out and party with me. I said, Dad, I'll do that. So let's do it. So I go down to work at the shore. That's when my life started to change, man. We get down to the shore. First thing happens, we have a party up at Trenton. He was from Trenton too. He was partying at a place called Club XL. So we go to Club XL and we partying hard. We drinking, smoking, everything, all that, just partying hard. But now we on our way home down 195. He driving a Land Rover, and the Land Rovers was like top heavy. And neither one of us got seatbelts on, sunroof open. And he was drunk high, I'm drunk high, he's driving. And he almost rear-ended somebody and tried to turn, so he went hit the car and the truck flipped. And the truck flipped like 6 times, started sliding on the sides. I just tucked and I closed my eyes, and I didn't know it at the time. I had hit my head on the windshield. And when the truck stopped, I opened my eyes. He wasn't in the truck. I was able to step out of the truck because the sunroof was open, and when I stepped out of the truck, I was in the middle of 195 by the grace of God, by the grass. So I stepped in the grass and I started yelling out his name. Here about a half mile down the road, he like, yo, I'm right here. The ambulance came and got us that night, took us to Jersey Shore Medical Center. And the next day, we walked away unscathed. I just had a cut right here. He had like a rib, like something like a little nick in his ribs or whatever. We walked away unscathed, but we had went to the place to get our stuff out of the car the next day, and I was so sick in the head. I looked at him and said, "Yo, we gotta go harder because we almost died." That's how sick I was. So the partying kept going on and on and on. We discovered some new places to party. We started going to the Dominican Republic, started partying over there. Now I'm getting addicted to this, and I'm picking up all types of more demons and just wilding and thinking I'm living.
Yes.
And then I started feeling bad for my wife. She said I could do what I wanted to do, but I always had two sides of me. And the other side was like, we can't keep doing this. So I was like, I went to her and I was like, we're gonna get a separate, we're gonna get a divorce, and she agreed upon it. And me being selfish and self-centered, I thought that I had everything in the world once she agreed upon it. And then September 14th, 2009, that's when my life changed forever. She didn't come to work that day, and I usually called her in the morning. We had a project to do. She was bringing her class to my class. And that day she didn't answer the phone. So once we got to work, they actually was like, "Have you talked to Janelle today?" I was like, "Nah." They was like, "Well, she usually call out. If she's not coming, she's not here right now. We kind of worried about her." I said, "Well, we got a project to do at the homeroom. So let me know at the homeroom what's up." All I'm thinking about is the project. I heard a friend call out when I was going through the office. Now I'm thinking maybe they went out and partied too much or something like that. So they called me down to the office and they was like, "Well, she still hasn't called, and we tried to call her, she ain't answering. We worried about it." So I said, "All right." They was like, "Do you want to go check on her and let us know?" I said, "All right, I'll go check on her. But if she called while I'm on my way down there, call me so I can turn around and back, because Red Bank to Neptune is like 20-something." So I jumped in the car, I'm on the phone with one of my friends. I head down to Neptune. I pull into the complex, so I see her car. So now I'm feeling at ease because I know she's at home. I'm on the phone with my friend. I'm like, "Listen, bro, let me call you back, man. Let me go in here and wake her up." So I get out and I go, yell out her name, no answer. Knocked on the door, no answer. Then I tried the doorknob, but the doorknob was open. And I went in, made another left to the bedroom, and I found her on the phone. I called 911, first responders come. The guy comes in, he checks her. He turns to me and says she's dead. I dropped her on the floor, started screaming. He said, "You gotta leave, this looks like a crime scene." So I'm walking out the door, and I never forget, he said, "Be prepared because you're gonna have to answer a lot of the same questions today." So I said, "All right." So I leave, I call my mom called her mom. I called the school, let them know what happened. Then I called my friend that I was on the phone with, and then I went outside and all these cars just start coming around the corner. The police, the ambulance, the prosecutors, all these different people just start pulling up. And then I remember the prosecutors came and they came over to me and they said, "Could we look in your truck?" So they went to my truck. I had a Durango at the time. They put a light in my truck. And I didn't know it at the time, but they was looking for blood. I found out later. So then they took my car. They said, "Can we take your car?" They took my car. They took my car somewhere. So then they said, "We got to take you down to talk to you." So I go down to to Neptune City Police Station. I sit there for an hour. Nobody talks to me. They said, "We got to take you around the corner to the prosecutor's office." So I go around the corner to the prosecutor's office in Asbury. I sit there for another hour. Still nobody comes in to talk to me. But I later learned they were studying my body language on the video camera. So then they come in, they talk to me. I talk to them for 2 hours. I'm sitting there, I'm talking to them. I'm thinking of helping them because I don't know what happened. But I'm giving them this information, talking to them, telling them about my relationship, this and this, blah, blah, blah. So I leave. I go be with my girlfriend, go be with my family, go do all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking that, yo, I just helped them, this and this, blah, blah, blah. 2 days later, newspaper article comes out. It said she was found. It didn't say who found her, but in the last paragraph it said she was estranged from her husband and they worked at the same job, and their divorce is supposed to be final October 6th. And this is September 16th. And that was the day I found out I was the #1 suspect in my wife's murder. At that time, I didn't know where to go or what to do. I contemplated suicide, and the reasons I didn't do it was one, I didn't want to go to hell. I didn't want my friends and family to go through no more pain. They was already dealing with her loss, and I knew if I killed myself, that they would stop investigating, and I wanted to see it through. I had a friend who was an attorney. He saw the newspaper article and he called me. He said, Mike, don't talk to them no more. I'm gonna represent you pro bono because they're gonna try to pin this on you. His name was Ron Ventura. Ron said the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have a press conference down at Asbury Park Press. He said, you from Mercer County, these people down here don't know you. We gotta have a press conference just in case that we ever go to trial. These people down here are familiar with who you are. So we do the press conference, then my job sees the press conference. They call me in. So now when I go into the job, if anybody ever been in the teaching field, you know, when you go talk to administrators, you're supposed to have a union rep with you. So I walk into the office, I'm looking for my union rep. I'm like, yo, where's my union rep at? They like, don't worry about it, go in. I walk into the office, and my union rep was already in there with the superintendent. They had a meeting before the meeting, and when I sat down, they asked me to resign. I said, I'm not resigning because I didn't do nothing. So then I called my lawyer calls and threatened them. They say, well, he got to go home until we figure this thing out. So now I got to go home. Then the funeral comes up. Now I'm at the funeral, just shook. I can't even believe this is really my life. And I'm sitting in the front seat, or the front row of the funeral. And then my mom taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, what's up? She like, did you know they were coming? And then I turned around, and the prosecutors are walking down the aisle of the funeral. My heart just started beating out my chest, man. And they came up, they act like they was giving condolences, and then they went, and then they start questioning everybody, our friends and family, while they was at the funeral and this and that. So then I'm leaving, and my friends built like a little circle around me to try to like protect me, even though they probably really couldn't do nothing. I mean, my friends couldn't stop them from doing nothing. So we walking out, and I'm about to go get in the limousine, and one of the cops comes over and whispers in my ear in front of everybody, we still need to talk to you. So now the whole focus of the funeral has switched. It don't got nothing to do with her no more. Now everybody's looking at what's about to happen with me. So now I get in the car, I call my lawyer, I start crying and I break down, man, and that was my life, man. It took 6 years for them to figure out what happened to my wife. So every day for 6 years I got up. I thought I was going to jail for a murder that I didn't do. Eventually, they let me come back into work, but I couldn't go into the schools. I couldn't be around no kids. I had to work in the Board of Education office behind the school. So every day I go to school, I'm seeing these kids growing up. So for 6 years, I'm seeing these kids grow and grow and grow, but I can't talk to them. I can't say nothing to them. All I do is go to work, go home and drink. So now my drinking is really picking up. I tried therapy, but therapy couldn't work because when I leave the therapist, this thing is ongoing. So this happened in 2009. 2013, I got a phone call from Ron, my lawyer. I was like, Ron, what's up? Ron said, Mike, I got bad news. My heart dropped. I'm thinking I'm about to be arrested. Ron said, Mike, I got brain cancer. I'm like, what you mean you got brain cancer? He like, I got brain cancer, Mike. 6 months later, Ron was dead. 2 days after his funeral, the prosecutors was knocking on my door because they knew I didn't have a lawyer. Ron had gave me instructions though. He said, don't ever talk to them. They're going to try to act like they're your friend, but their real job is to arrest you. So now my life is really spinning. Ron gone, I'm stressing, I'm drinking, I'm just living an out of control life. And then 2014, going into 15, this new detective gets on the case, Scott Sanders. And Scott called me and said, Mike, I need to talk to you because I know what happened to your wife. It took me about a year to talk to Scott because I didn't trust him. When I sat down to talk to Scott, I got me another attorney and I met Scott at Freehold at this lawyer office. And we sat down and he told me the same story I had heard on the streets around 2011. He said, Mike, your wife lived next door to a drug dealer who had $15,000 in the freezer. The drug dealer girlfriend went to a party. She was running her mouth about the money. This guy at the party heard. The guy hired some stick-up boys to rob the drug dealer and they went to the wrong house. That's how your wife got me. So now I'm torn. I'm happy they know it ain't me, but I'm sad she lost her life over this money. But now I'm drinking more than a pint a day. So I told them, I said, listen, man, I appreciate what y'all did for me, but I need help, man. So I'm going to go down to rehab. So I fly down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I check in the Sunrise Detox, 7 nights. Go to Sunrise. Then I go into Ocean Breeze Recovery. I go into Ocean Beach Recovery, I start going to meetings, and I made a near fatal mistake that I hope none of you guys ever make, man. I compared myself to the people instead of identifying with them. I was drinking a pint a day, but I heard this guy say he was drinking a half gallon. I was like, man, I'm not like him. I don't drink a half gallon a day. There was another guy that was drinking hand sanitizers, hair spray, and all this stuff. I'm like, yo, I'm not like these people. These people weird. And there was another guy that came up to me. He was like, what's your morning rush? And I said, morning rush? He said, what you drink in the morning to get going? I said, man, I don't drink in the morning. And at that time, I cut off my ability to learn. I said, I'm not here for alcohol. I'm only here because I need therapy because my wife got hurt. I didn't want to go to AA meetings. They was whack. All I saw was old white people, and all they did was cry about their wives being mad at them, that they lost their license, they lost their job. I wanted to go to NA meetings. I wanted to be entertained. I wanted to hear the drug stories. I wanted to hear what was going on in the street and all of this. So it was a tech named Chris. Chris was I was sitting in a group one day, and I'll never forget this. And Chris had a chair in front of me and kept going like this with the chair. He was rocking the chair. And I said, Chris, why you keep rocking that chair in my face like that? What's wrong with you? And he said, because I'm saving this seat for you. Because you ain't do nothing while you was here. And when you come back, you're going to be drinking twice as much. And I laughed at him. I said, man, I ain't never coming back here. I wanted to convince my counselor to tell me that I didn't have to go to meetings. So that was my goal. And on the day before I was leaving, he convinced me. He said, no, you don't think you got to go. But now I know when I left his office, because I work in recovery. As soon as I left his office, he probably said, yeah, he'll be back soon. So I leave out. I was supposed to fly home Saturday morning. But, you know me, I'm a schemer at this time. I ain't pay attention to rehab. I'm like, man, why I need to stay tonight? Y'all should just let me out Friday night. You know what I'm saying? Like, why? Like, I'm done the program. So they said, all right, we'll let you out. My cousin lived in Fort Lauderdale. I just saw him at my aunt's funeral. I said, yo, come pick me up. They're going to let me out early. He comes to pick me up. He's like, what you want to do, bro? You don't leave till tomorrow. I'm like, man, I ain't really been up on no chicks like that. Let's go to the strip club. So we leave directly with clothes in the car and everything. We leave directly from the rehab and go directly to a strip club. So I pull up to the strip club. I go in. I start, of course, I'm drinking because I ain't pay attention in rehab. I already knew I was going to drink again. So now I'm in the strip club. I'm drinking. I fly back home. My ex-wife, the second woman I married, she picks me up from the airport. So she's like, I got a surprise for you. I'm like, what? She's like, I'm taking you to my homecoming. I said, Delaware State? She said, yeah. And I'm like, it's definitely going to be alcohol here. So now this is going to be interesting. So now I'm like, she don't know I was drinking. She definitely don't know I was at a strip club. What's going to happen? So we get to the hotel, and we check in the hotel, and we on our way to the room, and it's a bar. So here we go. She turns to me and she says, I don't think you really got to stop. You could be a social drinker. I said, bet, sign me up. So now I'm back in the game again. I can drink. I ain't got to worry about sneaking with her. This is going too well. My job let me come back in the job. So I'm thinking everything cool. I'm not really noticing no progression, but I'm drinking. Everything cool. I'm drinking. My life is back good. They done solved the case. I could laugh at the people who was accusing me of a murder I didn't do. I'm thinking life is good. I went back to work towards the end of the school year. We got a new union rep. The new union rep calls me in. She's like, I need to talk to you. I'm like, what's up? She's like, I got to get you a lawyer. I'm like, nah, the case over with. She's like, not for that. I'm like, for what? She was like, for your job. I'm like, my job? She said, yeah, you'll find out. So I had to come down here on this street in Long Branch. It was a lawyer office down there. So I go meet with the lawyer's office, the educational lawyers, though. They for the teachers and stuff. So I go meet with the lawyer, and I'm like, what's up? He's like, they don't want you here no more. So what you ain't taught in 6 years. And even though you got tenure, because they saying that if this thing go to trial or anything, the situation is just gonna stay in this school and stuff. So he said, what they're gonna do is you're gonna go back into school. They know you haven't taught in 6 years. They're gonna keep observing you and harassing you until you either quit or you transfer. And then I said, how they gonna do that? He said, I'm just giving you the heads up on what they probably about to do to you. He said, but you can either deal with it or you can, I want to get you evaluated. And I said, what you mean you're going to get me evaluated? He said, what you went through, I think you suffered severe PTSD. So I want to go get you examined. And then if the tests come back and the tests say that you got severe PTSD, you could retire. I said, so what that mean? He said, once you retire, they're going to send you a check every month for the rest of your life. So I was like, all right, that's and I knew I had my basketball company, so Okay, I said, I'll consider that. I said, all right, let's do it. So he takes me, he sends me up to Ewing by Trenton. I go up to Ewing to take this test, and the test is 400 questions, and they ask you a lot of questions differently to see if you're lying. It's the same question, but they twist it around a little bit to see if you're lying. So I take the test, but the test takes forever to come back, the results. It said, I think it took like 9 months for my results to come back, something crazy. So while I'm waiting, I don't know how to do nothing else when I'm scared or drink. So now I'm nervous about how my future gonna be with this. So now my drinking starts to increase. My drinking starts to increase. About 7th month, I get a phone call from Scott at the prosecutor's office. So I'm like, Scott, what's up? He like, I got bad news, Mike. I'm like, I thought y'all arrested the guys. It's over. He was like, you did, but I tried to get him a deal to avoid trial. These guys don't want to take no deal. We got to go to trial. And since you found her, you're definitely going to have to testify. And on the only way these 3 guys got a chance to get off, their lawyers are definitely going to say that you the one that did this. So now, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if they're going to dig up my past. I know it's their job to make me look bad. I don't know what they're going to do or anything. So now, the drinking just starts getting real off the hook. Now I'm drinking. The drinking starts to increase those last 2 months. That 9th month, the results come back from the test. I got severe PTSD, and I can retire. And when I heard it, I was elated, like, all right, I can go retire. I don't got to come to this building and be reminded of her no more, this and this. But I remember, man, walking down the hallway at Red Bank Middle School and saying to myself, about to go under for alcohol. I knew it. I said, because you can't even wait to get home to drink. You know what I'm saying? I used to leave work. I used to go to on Shrewsbury Avenue. It was a liquor store. I'd go get a pint of Ciroc. I'd go get a cup of ice. I'd drink half of the pint going down the Parkway, the other half of the pint going up 195 to Trenton. By the time I got to Trenton, I would go to my friend's house who lived across the street from the liquor store, and then I'd get another half pint and drink that before I take it into the house to possibly have alcohol. Now you're telling me I ain't got to go nowhere? And you're going to send me a check every month? So now, I started trying to drink like a gentleman in the beginning. I started drinking like 4 o'clock. Then 4 o'clock went to 2 o'clock. Then 2 o'clock went to 12 o'clock. Then 12 o'clock went to 10 o'clock. Now I'm at the liquor store 9 o'clock in the morning, man. It took us 4 years for us to get to trial because they kept postponing. They kept postponing the trial. By the time we got to trial, I was drinking more than a fifth a day. And this when God, I went and testified. I didn't drink for like 2 days because I knew like this is one of the most important moments of my life. I was like, I can't drink. I got to get this done. But I had it in my mind, after I get it done, I'm going to drink. You know what I'm saying? So you know how it is. so that was the goal. That was my reward for this situation. You know what I'm saying? So I went and testified, and this when God came into my life on March 12th, 2019 in Freehold on my birthday, man. The verdict came down. All 3 guys was guilty on all charges. Now, if you're an alcoholic like I was, I thought God did that on my birthday so I could celebrate for like 6 months. I'm like, God, on my birthday, this was 10 years. But it was already too late. It was already too late. I had more than a fifth a day. I started developing the shakes. I started shaking now when I didn't have alcohol. I started having the DTs. And my ex-wife threw a party for me down in Atlantic City for my birthday. And all her friends and all my family, they bought me big bottles of Ciroc. And I was drinking, and I overdid it. And I was sitting next to one of my friends, and I looked at him. And I recognized him. He looked like a demon. And I got scared. And I said when I went to sleep that I'm never going to drink again. But when I woke up in the morning, I realized I couldn't stop. Now I'm drinking against my will. I'm going to like 6, 7 different liquor stores in Trenton. And every liquor store I go in, they putting the Ciroc and the Black & Milds on the counter as soon as I walk in. So now I just feel myself like losing it. And one night I was laying in the bed, and I couldn't stop shaking, and I didn't want to drink. And then I felt myself going crazy, and my ex looked at me and she said, "Do you want me to take you to crisis?" And I said, "No, I know what I got to do." I went in the basement, I got on my knees, I cried out, knew I had to go back to rehab, but I didn't want to go to Florida because I didn't want to see Chris and them. I was embarrassed. So I said, all right, I called my other friend. He said, go to this joint in California. So it was in Palm Springs or something like that. I fly all the way across the country. So I get there, I'm thinking it's going to be like Malibu. Like one of them MTV rehab joints. I'm like, this joint going to be lit. So I get there, I go into the rehab. Now, for some crazy reason, this is how crazy I was. I used to walk around with like $4,000 cash in my pockets, like in my wallets and stuff. I was just crazy, like something was wrong with me. So I go out there and I go into the rehab, and it's in the middle of the night because of how my flight was and stuff. So it's about 12:31 in the morning. The lady comes out that's in the rehab. She has a house coat on. The house coat stops right here, and she's looking around. She's like, yeah, I need all of your stuff, this and that. I'm looking at this place. I'm like, I'm not giving this lady $3,500 cash. I said, miss, I can't be here. She was like, what you mean you can't be here? I said, nah, this ain't the place for me. This place look crazy. She was like, well, get out. I like, so I don't get, you ain't calling me no ride. You ain't giving me no ride. No, we flew you out here. You don't want to be here. You got to find your own way. So I go on the porch. I call an Uber. I find me a hotel. I go to the Uber. Now I call my ex-wife and my dad. I tell them I can't be. They said, we don't care. You can't come back to New Jersey. You got to go to Florida. So now I'm like, so now they call the rehab in Florida. We on the phone negotiating. If you've been in rehab more than once, you know what the negotiations. They say 50 days, I say 30 days. And we going back and forth till we try to figure out what day they're going to lie to me about. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the lie to get me on the plane. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to negotiate with them. I'm like, well, last time I was there, y'all said I couldn't have my phones and y'all wouldn't let me use my computer. No, you can have all that now.